Hello everyone, this is Uthris. Welcome back to Lothloria. So a while back ago I said I was going to do a walkthrough video, and I've been kind of waiting to see if it became stable sooner rather than later before I did this. Frames per second still an issue, everything, the simulation speed just feels really slow. So it's a bit of a chore to move around in Lothloria at the moment. I also wanted to wait until all the interiors were done, and it's nowhere near done. So I won't be showing you many interiors except for the specific professions. But this is basically going to be the comprehensive guide to Lothloria, kind of explaining the layout of the town and some basic concepts behind everything. So right off, we start here in the Palace of Lothloria. This is the main throne area and also the Grand Hall for feasts and anything of that nature. It is very open and it is structurally sound, where you use a lot of details in terms of cathedral-like mindset. So we have this area of arches supporting a lot of the weight, and if you take any of these arches out, pretty much a lot of the structure is going to come down because of it. Basically, the palace is divided up into sections. There are the main, grand entryway, which runs the length of the building. A garden on the left side, a plaza on the right side with a well. It's surrounded by a medium wall. It's just a pretty thin wall. It's not really meant to be a major defensive structure, because kind of the natural landscape's doing that already. This is kind of the last stand area. It has some coned towers surrounding it, also some normal buttresses surrounding it as well. This back section here is the living quarters, and then also on the back section we have a bit of a garden, you could say, or like ivy growing around and being supported by these beams. Just something a little bit different, some greenery touch onto the structure. I would like to add a lot more to that effect. There's not much detail to show inside. This area here would be kind of the servants' quarters and kitchen area. This would actually be the kitchen itself, even though it looks probably a little bit more craftsman than kitchen. That's just, sadly, we don't really have any decoration blocks. The upper story of the living quarters is, just the normal living quarters, from a dining room table, balconies, to bedrooms. So the palace is pretty nice, I think. It's definitely a spot I would like to live, and I'm beginning to sound like a realtor again. My first video, I sounded like a realtor walking through this place, and then now I sound like a realtor again. Let's see. So coming out of the palace, you're basically up on the noble tier of the town. They have their own private barracks, their own storehouse that's private. This is where the jail is as well, because it is the most guarded area of the structure. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward, just a simple barracks with some amenities inside and some planning rooms. Basement, simple dungeon, not much to show off there. To the right of the palace, as you can see, I'm kind of trying to work on ivy growing up the walls. We have the correct term to this would be the Princess Tower. I like to think it's kind of the mage's emissary. So a visiting mage would be able to stay here and feel roughly at home. There is a mage's college on the map, and when they are visiting the palace for business, this is a place where they can stay. So it has, you know, a couple open floors, unfurnished still. I would like to see some bookcases and things of that nature. Some tiered kind of balconies and things like that. And then also, beside the wizard's emissary, there is kind of the main fortification that's connected to the main wall. This is a major deterrent for people sieging the castle, is to really prevent them from going this route, because this would be one of the harder areas to attack. And so you want to try and funnel them into the valley throughout the houses so that you can shoot at them from the higher ground, basically. And this upper wall does not connect to this lower wall in any way. If they take the main wall, it doesn't help them going up here at all. So it's perfectly safe. It's its own castle in its own right. So it's a very defensible area. The last kind of thing to showcase for the noble area is this lift, and this is the only way up and down from this area. We're gonna go ahead and give this a test. I haven't actually tried to use this thing in a while. Last I checked, it was working, so we can just go ahead and try and crank this up, and it is going up just fine. It might be a little bit laggy, but that's just the save in general. This is why we really aren't working on Lothloria anymore. So yeah, the lift does still function, and it comes with its own guard house for controlling the functions up and down. There's also a pulley lever at the top here, so if this gets taken, we can still maintain control of our lift. Once you're down into the town, you're first greeted with the upper class, and these are the manor homes and wealthy livings for the city. These structures predominantly have a third floor with a red roof. It's how I kind of signal that these guys have a bit more money. It has the bathhouse and also the academy. And this is just a major school for book learning. It's not combat oriented. We can go ahead and peek through the window. There's classrooms, and then also some very tight fitted dorms. So, and then the lower floor has an eating area. Bathhouse, pretty standard. It has a male-female side. Some people have said that, you know, it really wouldn't matter back in the day. I just think it's nice to have a male-female side. This structure here is one of the, actually it is the only guild hall. This lower area is for just mass storage and things of that nature, and then there's offices up above. We have a kind of monastery structure. This is where a bunch of the priests and holy men would be staying for the town, the people that actually work here at our cathedral. And this one is a lot smaller than the one we just finished building. In fact, I forgot how much smaller this one is. The new one is probably 3 times as long and twice as wide. So if you guys want to check out that video, we pretty much just finished that up. This is the crypt, the royal crypt. You get greeted by some statues, and then it starts to go into a bit of a cave, and then you're just greeted by a couple tombs. Now, I never got time to come back in here and finish this area, but I will show at least one of its secrets again, in case it has been a while or if no one's seen it. So we have this, underground crypt, and then this wall here, if we just grab it using our hand tool and look to the left, we should be able to slide it out of the way. Sometimes it takes a couple tries to kind of get a good grip on it, but you can kind of see it starting to slide out of the way. And this is really back there would be a dungeon slash a lot of treasures that would be buried with their kings. So we'll go ahead and seal that back up. It's not finished. It basically just has a staircase back there. There's nothing to really see. But the idea of having a false wall like that, I think, is pretty cool. A lot of kind of stone inlays with the royal crypt. I would like to throw in some moss and some greenery in there as well, but if I keep adding blocks, FPS is just going to drop. Cathedral, pretty standard. It's not really technically a full-sized one, but it definitely looks the part, which is pretty cool. It's missing a lot of chairs and inner workings, but it is very open and simple and clean and nice. So this is the Cathedral of Lothloria. We also have a library. This is what this structure would be. Another manor home, and one of the large graveyards would be back there. As you work your way down the main road winds in front of the academy down into the main barracks and armory. So this is for kind of your town guard and things like that. There's a bunch of tables, a dining table. They got bedrooms upstairs. There's a lower training area, kind of a dirt pit to do practice combat, officers' quarters, to this would just be beds and things of that nature. It's been a while since I've been down here. Then also attached to the kind of barracks side excuse me, is an armory. So yeah, it's just a big storage area attached, and this is where they would sign out all their gear and things like that. We're getting into the market square, and this is where a lot of the basic shops are going to be. Some stalls, people checking in their goods coming in from out of town, signing them in, getting basically goods distributed around the marketplace. This is the main storehouse for the town as well, and it's a couple stories, large rooms, fairly empty. Didn't really, again, not furnished. Some extra businesses could fit among here in these little shacks. And then we have the main tavern and inn of Lothloria, at least in the city limits. So we have a nice tavern area with a bar, plenty of tables, a back kitchen, and down here in the basement, if it's not too dark, it's probably way too dark, there's a bunch of wine storage and storage in general. The innkeeper would be living in the structure as well. We have some simple one bedrooms, and then on the second floor we have half a window. That's new. I didn't know they were remodeling. We have, a simple, kind of a larger, nicer room, and then I think we have a double room back here. The family that runs the inn would be living over here, up above it. They would use a lot of the accommodations in the inn itself, so really they just need a sleeping area in their own personal space. The area with the market and the general barracks is considered the middle class, and that is marked by mainly wooden roofs for the second floor. First floor is all thatch. You'll see some spots of red, and that is just specific buildings and specific cases that they had to be used. Some spots of color is pretty nice as well. Most of these houses are two-story to 2 stories with a loft, so that's pretty interesting. Some of them have some nice effects and details. Besides the main roads, which kind of go through the heart of the city, there's plenty of little side passages to climb up and down these tiers. So this one would wrap around all the way up towards the cathedral. This is what you do to bring in a lot of detail into your builds, I think. You know, not everything has a set path. You can work and zigzag your way through the town. Main feature probably with the middle class is the brothel. This is the brothel kind of complex and marked by red flags and things of that nature. You would walk in, there used to be a desk here, I don't know what happened to it. Get checked in and basically pick one of the many bedrooms with a red curtain and have a nice night and stay in the brothel. So that's kind of a main feature of the middle class. Also, the middle class has a herbalist over in this direction. This is the herbalist kind of garden area, and the alchemist hut that they would be living in and working out of. So that's why they get this nice little coned roof. Once you are done with the middle class and their tier, everything's divided by tier in landscape and then also color. You know, it's a very visual difference every tier. Forgot to mention this. This is part of the high class. They get a theater, and yeah, it's a theater. There's not much I can say about it besides it has a stage. I'm using a lot of staircases for seating, and then it has kind of box seats at the top. I could almost probably rework this now with the newer blocks and try and make it look a lot nicer, but I'm okay with this design for now. Comes with a ticket booth, so that's pretty nice. The inn has a giant hole in the roof. This place is just like falling apart. Every time I come back, there's like more damage. Back here we have the mine. Again, another interior I haven't finished, but back here would be where the town would be getting a lot of its ore, not stone. I mean, this isn't the quarry. They're not shearing off blocks for construction. This is strictly ore, and this is the main reason the city was founded here, was the fact that it was sitting on a large ore deposit, and so they wanted to exploit that. Outside of the mine, we have 2 blast furnaces, and this is where the smelting would happen. And then this is kind of the last of the middle class, and then we start getting into the working class in this area. So we have a carpenter's hut, and this is has a winch to unload cargo, has kind of a front desk area, and then some woodworking tools, things that are being made. This chair could be being worked on, a lathe of some kind here, and then in the back a bunch of spare lumber and parts. Bunch of details. I tried to make the crafting sections the most detailed on the inside. Over here we have the blacksmith. It's an open blacksmith. You know, this is where you would go for all your blacksmithing needs, from horseshoes to armor to swords, weaponry. This is where it's made. It may not be where it's sold. He also has his own house attached to his workspace, so that's pretty cool. And I like how it has kind of this attached structure onto a house. It just looks very humble, and that's probably one of my favorite things about that blacksmith. Down at the end here we have a tailor's and leather worker shop, a bunch of table space, shelving for storage, and it's getting really dark in here, a bunch of drying lines outside, and barrels to put your leather in for tanning solutions. So this is the tailor's. And then also we have our siege workshop here. Has a working crane, and what you normally do is when you're building something with physics enabled, you need to pick it off the ground to be able to attach wheels, and so that's why we have all these belt loops to assist with that, and we can lift up an object from a single point fairly easily doing that method. This is the standard small catapult for Lothloria. I had to make a small one just so it can fit through the city streets, out the main door, and it's effective. It has a medium to close range, so it works. It's a working design. The crane actually rotates. I could probably lift up that catapult and move it all the way over here with the rest of them if I wanted to, and lower it back down. So that's a cool feature. And then we have down here, closer to the slums, this is the bakery. A lot of shelving to display your goods and your wares. Maybe some bowls of some kind. And holy crap, it's really dark. I might need a torch. Might be a good idea. And now everything's pink. The new lighting system's weird. In the back, we have our ovens and things of that nature. Also some space to roll out some dough. So that's about it in regards to our space. Why? Go away, torch. This lower slums area, everything is pretty much thatched roofing here. It's all dirt floors. It's pretty poor. I mean, there's enough room for a table, probably a couple beds, and I mean, you could fit some furniture in there for sure, but you're not going to be living very comfortably. Man, if I can speak. This is going to be a long episode. We're going to do a full tour, by the way, if I haven't mentioned that. And so this is basically, if people don't want to watch all 60 episodes, this is for you. This is so you guys can get a basic understanding of what everything's supposed to be. Because if you come in here blind, sometimes you just don't know, just based off aesthetics. Bunch of huts thrown together, mashed together, very maze-like. Down here, you got bridges going over streets into structures on top of other structures, and then a house on top of these. Second floor marked by the wooden roof as usual, but there's just such few of it that it looks right. Kind of a guard watch post here, kind of keep an eye on things. The main feature to the slums is this area here, and this is basically there would be two little shops in the lower area, and then everything else is apartments. And it's a little damaged, it's run down, it's old, so that's the look we were going for on this one. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the whole town. It's very layered. I like layered objects and layered buildings, and I think it looks pretty cool. Going back up towards the outer wall, it's missing a lot of battlements and details and supports. We have a small chapel. This is just for the common folk. Mainly the lower income people would come all the way up here to the chapel, and then most of the medium class and all the high class would actually go over there to the cathedral. The chapel looks pretty nice, has a nice little facade out front, and then you can walk in and you are greeted with just pews and a small altar for the priest to give his sermon. And that's about it about this structure. It's missing torches. So many interiors not done. This is one of two staircases up onto the main Great Wall. And the wall pretty much runs the whole length of the town. One solid structure. Kind of zigzags and tears up a couple places. Trying to mix in some wood and stone together to give it more of a unique feel. And the main structure, or purpose of this structure here, is to be able to resupply this old fort out in front of the wall with troops without actually having to open your main gates. That's why we have a separate drawbridge over here. This is another major deterrent structure to keep people away from the palace. So again, we want to funnel people as far that way as possible. Also, the terrain helps a lot with this. It's basically a cliff face. You're not going to get many troops up in this direction very easily. It has a wooden wall. It has some stone towers. Doesn't have a gate of any kind. I would like to make just maybe a simple wooden door. And then its own barracks and old armory rooms. That's what would be in here, but it's basically empty. This lower structure does connect up to this upper structure here, and then you can work your way through this structure to get onto this drawbridge. And this drawbridge does function. You can raise and lower it just fine. I can't do that. So, as you can see, it is nice. All those wooden shavings are all the failed attempts of me trying to make this thing. And all the failed attempts of me lowering it too fast and it just shattering and breaking in half. The wall is 2 blocks thick in all places. It's very sturdy. You're going to be sieging this thing for a while. The front gates don't close anymore. I don't know what they did to change it, but I did have a spring system kind of working. You used to be able to just kind of run into them, and it would kind of snap close or snap open. But that's not working at the moment. But the doors, probably the weakest part about the wall in general. But again, you're trying to funnel them in through certain spots of the town. That's the point. And I enjoy having weak spots. It's a couple layers of wood, just with some shields, or wheels in this case, to act like shields, to give it some just additional support. So the shields would break before the wood it's attached to, if it's hit by a catapult. Another main feature of the wall is the old burned down section. Basically, this is where all the craftsmen would stay when they were building the wall, and also some of the lower income people would stay here. But during some siege or some mishap, a fire happened, and stone structures, when they get caught on fire, you lose a lot of the woodwork to begin with, but also it just becomes very hard to repair. So this place was basically abandoned and left here to just overgrow. It's a pretty cool section of the build. It's one of my favorites as well. Outside the main gate, we have a stables, and we can fit a fair amount of horses, I think. I don't know how big they're going to be in the game, but there's some outside stables and then also some indoor ones. Across from the stables, we have, let my character's eyes readjust again, we have a trade depot. And this is outside because we don't want all these giant wagons to come in and out through the city streets. And so, Lothloria, we use this kind of standard wagon to take goods throughout the city, but the large like transports that arrive from other cities and towns would stop here, unload, and then we would use our small hand carts to push them into the city. And there's obviously some things here to import or export. Some whole. I guess some bandits were in here again. We have, this was a working crane. I disconnected it for some reason. I think I wanted to make it spin at some point. This path wraps around the fort. It's a pretty nice view, I think. And then we also have, out from the wall, we have the farms and windmills of Lothloria. This is where they're getting a lot of their food. The windmill does spin, and everything's kind of to the scale of a wheelbarrow here. So you would expect like wheelbarrows to go up this little ramp, pick up their grain from the windmill, and wheel it off to become processed at the bakery. It's a pretty simple design. It's just a couple sticks hitting each other to get this thing to spin. A staircase wrapping around all the way up, just so you can perform some maintenance on it. Get out of here. This thing is probably dark for you guys. A lot of shrubberies. This is a mod to basically make it look like these fields aren't harvested yet. Some farmhouses are out here as well. And then the fields also extend out and kind of mark the end of the city limits. They have their own little wooden guard tower, and from this guard tower you can see the next guard tower out, and then from that guard tower you have a good view of the third guard tower out there. So they have a nice kind of trail of wooden guard towers as a early warning system. In the lower farm we have just, basic farmhouses as usual. We have a pasture and a barn and silo with a working gate as well. Additional farmhouses, we have a water wheel, and this is just I don't know what you would be doing here besides processing flour like the windmills. The river of Lothloria would be flowing through here into the lake, but there's no water yet, so this is just being run by a motor right now. So it has its own nice little workstation. There's also a fishing dock over here by the barn, and they get a nice little dock here and a chair to sit in to fish in the stream as it comes. This would be a waterfall down here, and it would be coming from like a cave system that would be like on the other side of this giant mountain, basically. Crash catapult from an old siege, or just because I lost control of it and that's where it landed. We have a outer tavern, very similar to the one inside in terms of rooms. They're just a bunch of single rooms. I don't even know if I have furniture in here yet. Nope. This would be kind of the eating area, and then all through here we would have our little rooms. The upstairs we would have two larger rooms, and these are actually linked together. And so if you have a big enough party, you could rent both rooms out and have access between them. There's also kind of this would be like a linen space, things of that nature. The people that operate this in would not live here. They would actually live in the town itself. It's just a small tavern, mainly for tournaments and things like that, or people waiting to get access into Lothloria itself. I really like the windmills and how they spin. Over here we have our tournament grounds. A bunch of little stalls to sell food and vendors, things like that. We have practice arenas for the tournament. And then we also have a jousting ring. And then the winners of the small little areas out here will form a bracket and get to participate in the main arena that we have. It has multiple seating all the way up to, you know, these wooden seats. It's a fairly good view, no matter where you sit, basically. And there's 2 entrances down into the pit, one on kind of each side, so they don't come out on the same way and no mishaps can happen. There is a upper seating. This is where the king would sit to view the matches, and that's about it for our tournament area. Moving on, this over here would be our winery. Again, can't plant all the trees. We're really trying to cut down on lag. This is where we would crush all of our grapes and pour it out here into barrels for storage. And then the actual storage comes out the back of the building and underneath the tournament grounds a little bit. And it's getting dark in here again. It's basically yeah, just a nice cold, dark place to store wine as it ferments. By the winery, we have just a couple of houses here and there. These are the main fishing houses. And then we have the main fishing docks over here. So there's a couple layers. It kind of depends on how high the water would be where you would be fishing at. And so you have a nice simple area over in this direction, and then also a lower dock area to tie up little rowboats where you could actually go out into the lake and sit to fish out there rather than sitting on the dock itself. Again, this whole area around the lake spotted by little farmhouses and things like that. I wanted to add a little bit of additional farms probably to these houses at some point as well. This ruined wall here, this section, it's basically the old King's Wall, is what people said it should be, and some of the lore our fans have come up with. This is basically an old remnant from the kingdom of old before Lothloria took residence. So that's about all I can say about that. It's just a broken wall. Down here we have a fief of Lothloria. What's the name of this one? Is this one Gwendale or is the other one Gwendale? I think the other one's Gwendale. I don't think we came up with a name for this one. Or if we did, I forget it, and I apologize. It has its own wooden little tower, of course. This is a lot of the resource gathering side of Lothloria. We have the quarry and its elevator that's not connected or working. But yeah, this is where all the stone, or at least most of the stone, has come from to build everything. For some reason, it's probably way too small, realistically. I mean, to build all that would have taken a lot more stone. Beside the quarry, we have the stonemason. And this is the guy carving out stone, trying to make it look as if he's carving out a nice new king statue. And then, besides that, we have, this is the main lumber operation for Lothloria. We have a lumber mill here. And I don't know how this would be powered either, but this would be, I guess, the blade. It would be pushed through, and then we have lumber out the other side. Has its own winch to get logs up here. Plenty of little houses for our lumberjacks and huntsmen would be living out here as well, getting leather from deer and the wildlife. This is the kind of tower that's broken. Everything's broken. Why? This is kind of the forester's tower and the forester's hut. This is where they store all their tools and take their breaks. Spare parts, things like that are in here. There's also a storehouse over in this direction, I think. Yes, there's a small storehouse for this fief over here, and it's just a pretty simple 2-story structure. They don't need much, so that's all they get. This structure here, this kind of T-shaped multi-story structure, this is the Hunter's Lodge, and this is where they would be storing a lot of hunting equipment and getting, keeping their trophies and things like that. You could call it a guild if you want. Additional housing throughout the area. Near the back end here of the fief, we have 2 higher class houses, and these are kind of like the wood baron and the stone baron, you could argue, of the fief. This is where they would stay. And then we have the actual baron that oversees this fief. Because it's so far away from the city itself, you need someone to manage it on its own. And this is his villa. He has 2, separate structures to kind of act as one. This is kind of his more personal living quarters, and then this lower area would house guests and things like that. He would have his own kind of grand hall here. And it's just carved into the landscape. So it's a pretty nice looking village, I think so. I'll go ahead and kind of give you guys a wide shot. It is spread out. It's just a spread out area. Over here by the lake, this is a old fort under repair. It's really the first line of defense for the city, and yeah, I mean the wooden walls are falling down. The fort itself is basically in shambles. It's barely being held together at this point, and that's all I can say about it. It's just a ruined fort. Could be ruined from the period of when the old wall was, or it could have been built initially and just lost at some point and then regained. Little bridges crossing the river and lakes. There's also another one down in that direction. And that sums up this small fief area. Besides the fief, there is High Hrothgar. Oh wait, no. It looks like it, in a sense. But it's basically a monastery. I wanted to build something in the mountains. That's why I built it. It's just something different. It's a little removed from the town in general. Just like her High Hrothgar. It's the same kind of mindset. And obviously takes a lot of inspiration from Skyrim. It has, a dorm and living quarters for priests up here. And then all the way up at the very top, we have its own chapel for its religion. Storage rooms out to the side. And then its shrine. It's very simple, clean cut kind of design. Pretty grand in scale though, I think. Wonderful views from pretty much all around up here. They can really overlook the valley and see what's going on, but then also they're just detached from society. so they don't really care what's going on down there. They're just up here, worshiping whatever they do. So at this point, this is kind of the high density area of Lothloria, and then we start getting away from Lothloria into the second fief, and this is its last fief, and this is Gwendale. This is just a farming fief. It's plateaued up around kind of the hillside surrounding it. It has some small farmhouses here. It's very poor. Probably the most expensive thing in this fief is just the fact that it has really nice stone carved supports for the farms. Standard farming house here. You got another large farming home here. The chief of the fief would be living here. He's not a baron. I mean, this place is too poor to really be considered a baron, so he just has a larger home than most. He does have a bit of a stone structure on the inside, and you know, a welcoming table for guests if say the baron and the other fief comes to visit, because they would be friends in a sense. It also acts as a defensive structure, so over here we have a staircase wrapping up to the top, and you can use it to look out for bandits, you know, things like that. You are in the middle of nowhere. You're basically taking care of yourself at this point, though you could easily still travel to Lothloria to get some help if needed. Here's some more structures. We haven't quite finished. This is a new design for a windmill. It's just a thinner profile, almost reminiscent of a clock, in how it has this shaft up to this upper detail. You could almost picture a grandfather clock looking like this. It has a very smooth gear ratio. I think it has a 4:8 gear ratio in here. It is still the smoothest gear ratio that I've made without having to use the mods that I have. So, it also has a log cabin, kind of a different kind of structure. You guys wanted me to build this, so it was done. This is just, it's a log cabin. Not much you can say about a log cabin besides it's made out of wood. A lot of wood. Pretty basic. Over here, in its own isolated corner of the map, we have the Mages College, and this is where they would be spending their time and efforts trying to master the arcane. Front area here we have kind of a grand hall, plenty of eating space for them and to hold meetings. Little connecting hallways with tables and chairs for studying, kind of an open area here with storage. More studying areas. I lost a lot of my bookshelves, which is a shame. This would be the library wing of the college. You can see up here, before the game crashed at some point, I was building a lot of bookshelves. This whole lower area had like a center bookshelf and bookshelves all the way around it. It looked really cool. They get their own little balcony out the back here to study outside if they want. It is nice to get outdoors every now and then. They also have a back study room as well in this wing. The main tower. This is how you get up to the main tower here, and this is just main, whatever they would use it for. I don't know what mages do really. I never really played many mages in many video games. I'm more of a ranger or a rogue type person myself. but definitely a lot of good views throughout the tower, and has a very low defensive wall. This place wouldn't get attacked. It's full of mages. You don't just straight up attack a building with a bunch of mages inside. It's not a very good idea. They're very good at sieges. That's what mages are for, really. This is the living wing for the college. It has 3 floors in it. Lowest floor has the most beds, but the smallest rooms, and then it basically gets better as you go up, all the way up to the Grand Master's quarters, which is up here, and he gets his own little balcony. Not the best view in the world, but balconies are nice to have anyways. They have kind of their own storage silo and magic training area that's attached here. The only way to get to this is from the Grand Hall itself. There's no way to get in here otherwise. Nice little bridge structure for that. Yeah, I want more detail in this area. Sad thing is we're at the edge of the map, so I can't actually build past this structure, so we'll go and just hit the wall. So we are right at the edge of the map on this one, and this is pretty much as I can do in that direction. I would like to put outbuildings and really flesh it out a lot more. We're just out of room. So that covers the 2 fiefs, the city, a mage, and the monastery. The last place to hit is the bandit camp. And this is another thing you guys wanted me to build. So this is all the way back here through the forest. An old mining encampment was taken over by bandits. It's kind of been beaten up a little bit, but they have partial stone walls mixed in with wooden battlements over here. It's fairly defensive. You get a small house where most of the bandits would be living in. Also a small blacksmith area. This would be for the mine, but they've converted it to, sharpen their own tools and make themselves as deadly as they can and as threatening. This is where the foreman would be staying for the mines, but the bandit lord took it over, and this is where he would be staying. Lower area, fairly common space, but the upper area would definitely be for the bandit lord. I don't know why I can't climb the stairs there. He gets his own balcony, make sure everyone's going about and doing what they should be doing. It is built on a mine, and I would like to carve out the mine and actually make like living quarters down there and things like that, but that's just gonna have to wait. So yeah, this is Lothloria. This is kind of what I'm best known for. I spent so much time and energy building this save. I hope you guys really enjoy it. This is just hours and hours. I think 150 plus hours went into this build, at least. I kind of lost track near the end, and I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys just kind of the last panoramic view. This is, the best view you're gonna get. A nice city view. It fades out into a fief, into a spotty wildland, basically, and that's how it should be. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed the tour. If you guys have any questions about the build or any things of that nature, leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Lothloria is still on hiatus until the game becomes more stable, of course. I will come back to this build as soon as I can. There's a lot of stuff that I need to finish. All the interiors, all the detail work on the wall. The list goes on and on. This episode has been way too long. Thanks for watching. feel free to subscribe to see some awesome builds that we're working on in Space Engineers, and then also here in Medieval Engineers. I started another save to do kind of specific buildings. Also playing some other games here and there. If you guys like it, check it out, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.